Hi everyone, it's Christina from PhotoSprouts here. Today I want to show you why you want to do back button focusing in your photography and how to do it in a Canon R5 mirrorless camera. So before I do back button focusing, I often ran into two problems. Problem number one, I often missed a lot of shots in action photography. Problem number two, I had to go inside a menu when I have to change the focus mode. Okay, let me make another video on focus mode. So this is what I did before I play around with back button focusing. Every time when I photograph actions, my shutter was actually doing two things for me, which is grabbing the focus and taking a picture. So this is what I did. When it comes to moving subjects, I'll press the shutter halfway down to grab the focus, keep holding it and move the camera along with the movement of the subject so that it is in focus. And when I was ready, I would press down the second half of the shutter to take the picture. And then for my next picture, I had to repeat the same process and again and again. Now, I think you see the problem here. Because the shutter button was actually doing two things, which is focusing and taking the shots, it cannot possibly do these two things at the same time. And that's why I missed a lot of shots. Now, with back button focusing, I have disabled the shutter button from focusing. So it is now essentially doing one thing, which is just taking the pictures. And then there are two buttons at the back of the camera, the AF on button and also the asterisk button. So I have programmed the AF on button to IAF, whereas the asterisk button for general focusing. Now, traditionally, before IAF comes into play, photographers usually use one button as their back button focus. But with the advancement of technology, IAF is so awesome that you need to have it in your back button focusing system. So this is what I do now. Every time when I press the AF on button, the IAF will be activated. And depending on what type of subject I have chosen in a menu, I can choose between human, animals, and vehicles. Say, for instance, I've chosen people as my subject. Then every time when I press the AF on button, the camera will look for a human eye on the frame. Even though the human subject moves, or I move my camera to recompose the shot, the camera will lock the focus on the eye. And this is awesome. Okay, and when my subject is not human, not animal, or not vehicle, I'll just do general focusing with the asterisk, which means when I press that button once, I'm activating the single servo. When I keep pressing it, I'm activating the continuous servo, and this is great. Now, with back button focusing, say if I'm photographing a duck in a river, I'll just have to press the AF on button, keep holding it, and then I'll just press the shutter and just shoot. The shutter button is now just doing one thing, which is taking a picture, and that's why I will never miss a shot. And the second problem has been solved by back button focusing. I do not have to go into the menu to change my focus mode. When I need to do single servo, I just press the asterisk button once and keep pressing it if I want to do a continuous servo, and this is great. One beautiful thing about this camera is that if your subject is human, animals, or vehicle, whether or not it is moving, you can always press the AF on button to let the camera look for the eye or the vehicle itself. And when your subject is other than these type of subjects, you can just press or hold the asterisk button to activate the single or the continuous servo. And I'm going to show you how to do it in a Canon R5 camera. So go to page 3 of your Customize function menu and select Customize buttons. There are 3 buttons that we want to reprogram the settings to. So the first button will be the shutter button. Select the shutter button, click Set to go into it. Now, by default, it should be set on metering and AF start. So you want to select metering start and press Set to confirm. Okay, so this is the first button. The second button that we're going to change is the AF on button, which is this one. And notice that I am working on the photo taking, which is the left column of this menu, not the right side. The right side will be affecting the videography. Click Set to go inside the menu and select IAF, okay, which is this one. Click Set to confirm. Now this is the second button, super easy, right? So the last button that we want to work on is this one, the asterisk. Okay, click Set to go into the menu, and this time select AF. okay, which is this one, not IAF, but just the AF. And before you click OK, go to the Info Details menu. And now you should see 3 options in this menu: AF operation, AF method, servo AF characteristics. So go to AF operation. You have 3 options. Select servo and click OK or set to confirm. And then for the AF method, select expand AF area, which is this one. Click set to confirm. And finally, servo AF characteristics, select auto. Press set to confirm. Now click menu to go back to the previous menu and make sure you're selecting metering in AF start just like we did before. Press set or OK to confirm the setting. One last step before we finish the setup. You want to go to the AF operation. You can press down the Q on the camera body. And here, this is the AF operation. You can choose between one shot or servo. One shot is single servo. It's for photographing non-moving subject. And you want to set your AF operation to servo all the time, so that when you press and hold the AF on button, the camera will continuously look for the eye throughout the frame. Even though you move or the subject moves, it doesn't matter. The camera will still lock the focus on the eye. So make sure you do that. So now we have finished setting up the back button focusing in a Canon R5 camera. There's one minor thing in the menu that you want to do so that your shooting process will become smoother. If you're still staying with me for that long, please type the secret phrase ha 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 down in the comments below and like this video. Please watch until the very end of the video because I have an important point to make. Go to page 1 of the AF menu. Look for continuous AF. So the continuous AF here is not autofocus continuous servo. When you enable it, the camera will continuously look for a focus point even though you did not press any shutter buttons. So it will make a lot of noise. I will disable it. Okay, let's now try back button focusing on 3 types of subject: animals, human, and plant. Because it is non-human and non-animal, it's best to test out if the general focusing works. And I'll photograph both non-moving and moving scenarios. Okay, let's try back button focusing on an animal. Okay, believe it or not, the Canon R5 camera is so awesome that even though this is a figurine instead of a living doggy, it can still focus on the eye when I press the AF on button like this, okay? And I will be just keep holding on this button as I move my camera to recompose the shot. You can see that the focus has been locked on his eye. Awesome. Okay, I'm pressing the AF on button, right? Okay, let's say you do not wish to use the AF on button. And what if you use the asterisk button? Okay, so I'll press the asterisk button here. Press it once and release my thumb as I recompose the shot. When I'm ready, I will press the shutter button to take the picture. As long as the distance between the dog and the camera does not change, it will remain sharp. I can't do this, okay? So let me press the asterisk once and hold it, and then move my camera to recompose the shot. Since my AF operation has been set to servo, the focus point will be updated to something else, so never do that. So my advice is, as long as your subject is an animal or a human or a vehicle, use the IAF, which is programmed to the AF on button, okay? It's awesome, see? The focus is locked on the eye of the dog. Okay. What if the dog is moving towards me? Okay, I'm keep holding the AF on button, okay? Now, the distance is changing. As the dog is moving to me, the focus is still on the dog, which is great. And what if our subject is a human? Ta-dang! Snow White. Even though the figurine is not a human, the camera can still locate the eye of the figurine. Look at that. Super awesome. Okay, just like the dog, I am pressing and holding the AF on button to activate the IAF. And as I move my camera, I'll keep my thumb on the AF on button, okay? The focus will stay on the subject. Awesome. So the flower here, if I press and hold the AF on button, it will look for the eye, which the flower does not have. So my only option is to press the asterisk button to activate the focus. Okay, if I press and release my thumb, this is single servo. And if I keep pressing it, then I'm activating the continuous servo. Okay, say the plant is not moving. So I will press the asterisk button once, release my thumb, move my camera to recompose the shot, and press the shutter button to take the picture. And I have to make sure the distance between the camera and the flower does not change, okay? So let's say the bouquet of flower is moving towards me. Okay, let's see what happens. Pressing the asterisk button and then holding it, and then it will be moving towards me. Let's see what happened. Yep, okay, yep, yeah, it is very sharp. Okay, it's very sharp, even though it's moving, because as I press and hold the asterisk button, I'm activating the continuous servo focus mode, and the focus on the flower will be keep updating and updating. One interesting question is, will the AF operation and the AF method in your current settings override with the settings in your customized buttons? The answer is, it really depends. If in your, let's go to the customized buttons. Okay, so let's say we have customized the AF on button to IAF and the asterisk button to also autofocus and metering. As long as these buttons are programmed to something related to autofocus, and you have selected the AF operation and AF method in the info details set, then your camera will follow what is being set in the customized menu. And the current setting in the AF operation and AF method will not override. However, as for the IAF, okay, let me go to the IAF, which is the AF on button, which is set to IAF. And by default, the tracking area is throughout the frame. So the AF method is being taken care of. But as for the AF operation, you cannot specify whether you want servo or one shot in this customized menu. So it will follow the current settings in your AF operation settings, which is here. That's why you have to set your AF operation to servo all the time. If you set it to one shot, then the camera will not track the subject's eye throughout the frame. We're PhotoSprout's photography workshop in San Francisco. Equipment is provided for beginners so that they do not need to buy a camera to attend a photography class.